Tracy Ullman plotting to kill cheating husband Kevin Kline in I Love You to Death. 4 superheroes who hang out in sewers and eat pizza call themselves Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Johnny Depp is a misunderstood teen in the musical Cry Baby. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert.
In Abraham Lincoln mask tries to brain me with a baseball bat. That's the whole story.
Yeah, could you say what he looked like?
Yeah, he looked like Abraham Lincoln coming up to bat.
TV's Tracy Ullman plots to kill her philandering husband, Kevin Kline, in the offbeat comedy I Love You to Death. It's one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is named I Love You to Death, and this is one of the strangest acting challenges to come along in quite a while. The whole movie is based on scenes in which the characters are lying to each other, lying to themselves, or so spaced out that they can't think straight. The film stars Kevin Kline as an Italian-American pizzeria owner in Tacoma who cheats on his wife.
I cheated on my wife.
You committed adultery.
Yes.
How many times?
5 times the last 2 weeks.
The wife is played by Tracy Ullman, and her mother is Joan Plowright. When they find out about his philandering, they agree on one thing.
The sooner he's dead, the sooner you begin to live.
Their first murder attempt involves feeding him spaghetti sauce laced with 2 bottles of sleeping pills.
I don't feel so good.
No?
A little stomach ache.
Is that all?
What it means that all?
Then they get a family friend, River Phoenix, to hire 2 hitmen to do the job. They're played by William Hurt and Keanu Reeves.
They look like drug addicts.
Well, they are drug addicts.
Oh, my God, you hired drug addicts?
Who did you expect me to hire? The Red Cross?
These are not the world's swiftest hitmen.
I'm gonna shoot this dude. I'm sick of waiting.
Where are you gonna shoot him?
Right here. What do you think? I'm gonna take him downtown?
No. I mean, where in his body?
The movie is based on a true-life story about a man who didn't press murder charges against his wife afterwards, after she tried to kill him, because he agreed that she had a perfect right to want him dead. The movie was directed by Lawrence Kasdan, whose earlier films, like The Big Chill and The Accidental Tourist, have also dealt with how we handle death, but not in the macabre way this comedy approaches the subject. It made me uncomfortable. It made me wonder how they're going to get out of some of the trickier scenes, but it didn't bore me.
It did bore me to this degree. I didn't see it as serious a picture as you did. I saw it more as a burlesque comedy. And so I saw, particularly with the Kevin Kline character, that he was just sort of run around as sort of a buffoon, and then he's drunk, so he doesn't know he's been hit. And he was just sort of a cartoon character for me. At the same time, the performances are spectacular in the film, particularly Joan Plowright. I mean, first of all, I didn't spot her. And it just seemed like a marvelous original character, the kind of character that was in a picture like Moonstruck or something like that, a terrific ethnic character. Every single one of the performances, except for Kline, in my opinion, are wonderful. But the picture just bored me because the story, I don't know, it's so offbeat that it's like offbeat, it's always on the same beat.
I kind of see what you mean. I didn't like Kevin Kline's performance that much either. It was kind of comic opera Italian, you know, like you expected him to have his gondolier's hat at some point. The other performances were interesting. Tracy Ullman, for example, doesn't play one of her bizarre comic characters. She plays this loyal, meek little housewife who was totally betrayed when her husband's cheating on her. Now, I didn't say it wasn't a comedy. I thought it was a comedy. I just think that it's a comedy about death, which is a theme that runs all the way through Lawrence Kasdan's work. I think he's fascinated by the way people deal with the fact that somebody's dead or going to be murdered or in some other way inconveniencing them.
You're right. As you say it, I think of Body Heat. I think of The Accidental Tourist. I mean, you know,
he's never made a movie that wasn't about that.
I didn't think of it that way. I saw it simply as a sort of a bad cartoon with superior performances. Okay, next film, and our next film is a smash hit, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's the top grossing movie in the country right now, as you may know, and its success obviously has to do with the popularity of the TV cartoon show on which it is based, and with the utter lack of children's films. There isn't a whole lot on the screen to recommend this movie, however, which is basically a brainless action picture mixed with music video sequences. In the movie, the 4 crime-fighting turtles are turned into erect, human-sized creatures after they've been doused with a toxic waste. Their guru is a giant rat.
I know it is hard for you here.
Good.
Underground.
Yeah, okay. I want a large, thick crust with double cheese, ham, pepperoni.
Lots of jokes involve the turtles' love of pizza, which enables the filmmakers to insert not too subtle advertising plugs for a nationwide pizza delivery chain.
Just slip it down here.
The violence in the film is mindless. The movie was made by a director who previously made music videos, and you can see the influence in this sequence.
Hey! Wait for me! God, I love being a turtle!
I don't know what all the excitement is about. The 4 turtles have mostly interchangeable characters as they set about their boring task of conquering dull villains. The turtles talk like surfers, guzzle pizza, and pay only lip service to ninja teachings. I suppose they pay only lip service if turtles have lips. I didn't like the picture, and I hope this isn't a case of kids just settling for something familiar. Actually, I think it is. The movies ought to be a much more magical experience than this. That's why I hate those countless product plugs. Why have kids be reminded of the world in which they spend all of their days?
Yeah, and why would a pizza company want to advertise that it's the pizza preferred by turtles who live in sewers? That's an interesting plug. I was also interested in the high level of your criticism when you pointed out that these turtles only pay lip service to ninja teachings. I suppose you would have liked it better if it had been a more devout and religious film.
Well, if somehow, I'm looking for something there for kids.
Yeah,
if they're, you know, like the Karate Kid film, at least there's a suggestion of some kind of altruistic behavior.
What you have here is marketing carried to the ultimate degree. Now, you mentioned the Saturday morning TV show. You didn't mention the Nintendo game, which is one of the top-selling Nintendo games in the country, and I played it for our Christmas gift guide last December until it drove me crazy, these little turtles running around and doing their flip-flops. And actually, the visuals in this movie look a lot like not only the TV show, but also like the video game. And so kids have already been brainwashed to the point where they've got to see this movie. That's why it opened so strongly. They had to be taken to see this movie. And I guess they liked it. I don't know. Maybe they're not that critical when they're 5 years old. But you're right. It's kind of a dark, brooding, kind of depressing-looking movie. And even though I admired the set decoration, I thought they did a good job of making those sewers, it didn't have the bright and bouncy feeling that you'd like to think that kids would enjoy when they're that age.
I don't know what the appeal is. When I sat there, I knew it was a big phenomenon. I couldn't figure it out. I think it is just what you said, marketing. In other words, they want to see the turtles because they've seen the turtles on the tube and in the thing, and so they have to see the turtles.
It beats me. When we come back, Crybaby, starring Johnny Depp in a John Waters tribute to the dawn of the age of rock and roll. It's named Crybaby, and this is another in the series of tongue-in-cheek social histories that director John Waters makes in the guise of teenage exploitation comedies. His previous film, Hairspray, was about Baltimore just before the Beatles, and Crybaby is about Baltimore just before Elvis, in the early days when they were romanticizing juvenile delinquency. The movie stars teen idol Johnny Depp from 21 Jump Street as a local bad boy who crashes Polly Bergen's charm school in search of Allison, the girl he loves, played by Amy Locane.
How dare you hit him?
The punk got what he deserved.
Come on.
Crybaby takes Allison to meet his fellow JDs who live in a rockabilly heaven.
Well, what have we here? First square to ever set foot in Turkey Point.
Hey, fine, Mama. Welcome to the Jukebox Jamboree.
The movie's enormous cast includes Patricia Hearst and David Nelson, who shocked their daughter, former porn actress Tracy Lords, by swabbing her for a Swedish foreign exchange student.
All this silly trouble you've been having lately. Wanda, honey, you're going to Sweden this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
You mean you swapped me for a milkmaid?
And if you were surprised to see Tracy Lords, Patricia Hearst, and David Nelson in this movie, let alone in the same scene, then how about Joey Heatherton, Ricky Lake, Troy Donahue, Iggy Pop, Polly Bergen, and Mink Stoll? The film has a feel a lot like those old 1950s teenage exploitation films. Remember High School Confidential with Mamie Van Dorn, or all of those old Cleo Moore movies where the good kids got rewarded at the end, but the bad kids got to have all of the fun. It's innocent and goofy and utterly meaningless and sort of entertaining. I liked it.
I thought so, too. It's not my favorite of the John Waters films. I liked the
Hairspray.
Well, Hairspray before that, and before that, Female Trouble, I thought, with Divine, was very, very funny stuff. At the same time, there are great scenes in there. When the father of Tracy Lords picks her up, she's the bad girl at the school. When he picks her up and he says, he's a bus driver, and he says, you want to go look at out-of-state license plates? I don't know. I mean, just the idea of that. It's such a ridiculous thing, and there are moments like that throughout the movie, and on that basis, I did enjoy it.
What he's doing here is he's being very faithful to this genre of film, which is brand new for today's moviegoers because they didn't see High School Confidential. But the whole thing is, the joke is these are juvenile delinquents in the period before evil. See, the worst guy in this movie is Johnny Depp, and he would be the best guy in a teenage movie made today. He is, what does he do that's bad? He hangs around and looks sinister. He combs his hair the wrong way. He likes to listen to rock and roll. He wears a black leather jacket.
Actually,
he's never heard of drugs. He's probably never had a sexual experience. He probably doesn't know any bad words.
Right, and he's got a heart of gold because he has that one tear. Crybaby is his nickname. He has one big tear. Coming up next, a film that is too strong to get an R rating, says the Motion Picture Association of America. So it's being released in this country as for adults only. It's a strident social satire called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, a brutal comedy about the superficial times in which we live, told in the form of violent sexual intrigue played out in a fancy French restaurant in England. The lead character is a disgusting, boorish mobster who berates his employees and his wife at every turn.
No, you don't eat it like that. Let me show you. Oh, imagine you are sucking the little fingers of a lady, or... No, you wouldn't understand that, since you'd never get that close to a lady. Who'd want to get that close to you, for God's sake?
That's Michael Gambon portraying a stunningly vulgar character and doing a terrific job. His wife, Helen Mirren, decides to get revenge by having an affair with a meek-looking man also dining in the restaurant.
I go to a good gynecologist.
You what?
Who says that it's unlikely that I'll ever have a baby.
Well, Gina, Marco doesn't want to know things like that.
That the 3 miscarriages I've had so far have ruined my inside.
The two of them have repeated and explicit sexual couplings amid the restaurant and its produce.
I'm learning fast. How to cut corners, save time. I'm getting good at it, aren't I, Michael?
And those meetings go on for more than a week with deceit and revenge hanging in the air. There is some purpose, I think, to the wild behavior in this film. Director Peter Greenaway has fashioned a world similar to that of Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, only we're not talking about teenagers here or young punks. We're talking about a much older punk and a thug. And now the thugs have really grown up, and Greenaway draws parallels between these wasteful times and those of generations past. He has a Franz Hals painting in the picture talking about this sort of vulgar time, and he sees the same thing going on here. And as a result, this movie develops, I think, some really genuine horror. This character of the mobster, Albert Spica, is a grand grotesque. He may be what survives and thrives in this world, the director seems to be saying. This movie has already started some controversy because its maker wouldn't edit some of the violence and nudity out to get a more conventional R rating, so it's going out as an adults-only picture, and I found it refreshing to see an intelligent adult film.
This movie is original, and what it attempts to do, I think, is to provide a parable, in particular, for the Britain that Peter Greenaway lives in. This is a movie that's been referred to in Britain as a very violent and angry anti-Thatcher film, and you can read it on that level, or you can just read it on the level of the thief being someone who wants to just essentially take everything from the environment and waste it, his wife being somebody who is totally cowed by that, the lover being a kind of ineffectual liberal opposition, and the chef being the, you know, dutiful people who go along from day to day trying to get their jobs done. If you look at it in that way, it's a very powerful social film, and so, of course, needless to say, the MPAA couldn't give it an R rating because if there's anything they can't stand, it's a movie that goes outside their little blinders.
Well, I think that, you know, we have campaigned for a long time that there ought to be something called the A rating, which would say that a film doesn't have to be tainted as X material. I think that these people, both the people at Miramax Films, which are distributing this picture, and Greenaway, are taking a risk by having their film go out as adults only, and I applaud them for it. I'm glad they didn't make cuts. We can handle this material. We see such garbage.
Of course we can.
We hear such garbage and see it on cable every day of these garbage pictures that we review. Here's an intelligent film.
It's one of the tragedies of our time that anyone who wants to make a daring film like this has to pay a financial penalty because of the pig-headedness of the MPAA. And when we come back, another controversial new film, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, that also didn't get an R rating for the same reason.
I killed my mama.
This named Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and wherever this film has been shown, it has shocked some people and impressed others. Even though it's been refused an R rating by the ratings board, it refuses to disappear. It's been around for 4 years. It couldn't be released originally because it couldn't get the R rating, but after playing at unrated midnight shows in Chicago and New York, it surfaced last fall at several film festivals and was taken so seriously by the critics that now it's going into limited national release, even despite the MPAA rating controversy. The film stars Michael Rooker in a performance of absolutely riveting brilliance as a flat-voiced, unemotional mass murderer who talks about his deeds almost in the abstract.
Open your eyes, Otis. Look at the world. It's either you or them. You know what I mean.
Otis is played there by Tom Tolles, whose little sister comes to visit. She's impressed by Henry's unemotional truth-telling.
I feel like I've known you forever and ever.
Yeah. I killed my mama.
The sister is played by Tracy Arnold. The strange thing about scenes like this is how impending violence seems to suggest itself beneath the surface of an apparently casual conversation.
Were you really a dancer?
I danced some in a club, and I wasn't naked. I wore a costume, but I guess it wasn't very much.
When are you gonna dance for us?
Many of the scenes in this movie are really hard to take, including one where they videotape one of their home invasions. There is no doubt in my mind that Henry is a powerful and important film, brilliantly directed and acted. But why should there be a film like this, a dispassionate record of a mass murderer? Well, because there are people like this, and one of the purposes of serious films is to help us see and understand the world we live in. It's an irony that mad slasher movies like the Friday the 13th series routinely get an R rating from the MPAA and play to millions of teenagers, anyone who can find that legendary 18-year-old adult guardian to go in with them. But let an artistic film come along that really sincerely considers the subject, and it's banished by the MPAA to that ghetto between the R and the X, so that most theater chains are afraid or legally prevented from booking it. This film deserves to be seen. And you know, this must be the only civilized country on earth that doesn't believe there's such a thing as an adults-only movie, a movie that is unsuitable for people under 17. We have the R, which is a joke, very loosely enforced, and then everything else is allegedly hardcore pornography. There's nothing in between. And do you know why they won't pass an A rating? I'll tell you why. It's because the A rating would have to be enforced, and they would have to look at somebody holding money at the ticket counter and say, no, we won't take your money. And the MPAA and the theater owners are too gutless to do that, and so what we have are pictures like this being punished as a result.
Well, I think you're right to include the theater owners because they're the ones that would have to do the enforcing. They don't want to get near it. Also, the media, newspapers and radio stations and television stations have policies that they won't play or advertise X-rated films. So it's really the whole network here.
Or
it's
even
not just
unrated films. You take a paper like the Los Angeles Times, one of the great papers in our country. Its own critics have said that a movie like Henry and a movie like The Cook, The Thief, and so forth are great films. But will they allow them to be advertised if they were rated X? No.
There's a sequence when Otis kicks in a television set. And when I saw him kicking in and destroying the television set, I realized that, at least my opinion was, that the director was showing that is the way they have just finished destroying somebody in a car, a couple of women in a car, I think, and they kick in the television set with the same reaction. These people, therefore, view women, people, as inanimate objects, as stuff that if you don't like it, you kick it in. That's the mental breakdown that has occurred in these heads. And so by using movie imagery, the film deals with tough material. Listen, I didn't like looking at some of the murders there.
No.
I wouldn't have made the film that way, but I appreciate that. I think somebody's trying to do something serious rather than totally joyride exploitation.
It's an unforgettable portrait of a sociopath.
Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. A split decision on the comedy I Love You to Death. I enjoyed only the performances. Roger liked the dark comedy as well. His thumb up, mine down. 2 thumbs down for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We found it to be a depressing kids' film. 2 thumbs up for Crybaby, the parody of 50s juvenile delinquent movies. 2 thumbs up for The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, a provocative social commentary. And 2 thumbs up for the extremely violent Henry, portrait of a serial killer. And of all the pictures, the one I like the best is The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover.
Well, it's so hard to compare that to Henry because they're quite different movies, but in both cases, what these movies do is they push the edge of the envelope. They challenge you. They make you think. They're not just formula pictures. They're valuable to have. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with Crazy People, starring Dudley Moore and Daryl Hannah in a satire on advertising.
Metamucil. It helps you go to the toilet. If you don't use it, you'll get cancer and die.
And Impulse, starring Teresa Russell as a cop who gets carried away with her fantasies. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Super 8 Motels, with over 700 locations nationwide, and the American Express card welcomed at all of them. Don't leave home without it. Snowcaps, Raisinets, and Goobers. 3 big box office hits starring Nestle Milk Chocolate. Moviegoers give them a definite 2 thumbs up. Fab, detergent with fabric softener for a clean that's comfortably soft. Fab. Magla Easy Wipes, absorbent like a sponge, dry like cloth. Use over and over again. From Magla Home Helper Products.